Everyone, welcome to the weekly review. This week we had an inside week, and next week it's OPEX week. We have a CPI print, and I expect things to be quite binary. Usually, when we get into OPEX week, we have momentum until the end of the month in the direction we go into. So, if we go up, I would expect to continue going up until the end of the month. If we go down, I would expect to continue going down until the end of the month. And that the inside week on the weekly, basically like this. I'll update it on the daily. Confirms that story, basically, meaning we will get a breakout from this range, and whatever direction we go into, that is going to be uh, where we go. It's the weekly so strange. Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, and let me turn on the weekly range. And we went from the three scenarios, we got the most bearish one, going back to the Q3 open. That was approximately the weekly low, a bit lower than the Q3 open. Then we start going up, back up, and we got rejected at the quarterly mid, this week's mid, previous week's mid. And when I turn on the moving averages as well, this was a rejection at the 50 MA. This is relatively bearish. I would give it a 60-40 bearish bias, maybe a bit more like this 65-35. Two out of three it's bearish, and one out of three it's bullish. And uh, I I will keep a bearish bias until we close above the 50 MA. If we close above the 50 MA next week, we are bullish, and we go into the scenario in which we should hit 460 by end of the month. If we close below the Q3 open next week, we are in a bearish scenario, and I would expect a retest of uh, this 415, 420 area by end of the month. Now, let's look at stuff that corroborates this or invalidates this. First of all, liquidity. This is the liquidator channel that I came up with. We have lost the midpoint, and to get to the lows here, we need about a 30 point drop. Considering we are at 445 minus 30 points, that's 415. Things line up. So if we drop around $40 in SPY, we will be at the lower band of the liquidity bands, and that's a clear buy. We go long, and then we just wait. Then we have VIX, which doesn't have a lot of room to drop, and I don't expect it to drop because we have CPI on Wednesday, I think. I would expect some hedging going to CPI, so VIX will not drop. VIX most likely will go up in the first couple of days. Let's say we go back to let's do the 50 MA for the sake. So we go back to around 1480. Only then can we get a VIX flush down because CPI was good and drop like 10, 12%, something like this. But I don't expect we drop in VIX on Monday and Tuesday. Only have 6% to retest the lows. So VIX is telling us that it will go up. VIV is kind of the same thing. We went below this horizontal level. Now we're back above it. Chances are it will act as a support now, and we bounce and retest these highs here. So the way it should play out for SPY is more likely to drop at the beginning of the week, and then if CPI is good and we have a good reaction, then it bounces and ends the week above the 50 MA, and then we continue up for the rest of the month. But if the reaction is negative and we go below the Q3 open, that's a very bearish setup, and the flush will continue for the rest of the month, I believe. Okay, then let's look at mega caps because mega caps are important, and the most important one is Apple, which looks quite bearish. We had the news this week about the Chinese government banning Apple devices for government employees, I think, and this is likely to be expanded upon in the future. I don't think all the bad news is in for Apple. We went down to the 120 MA. Now we're backtesting this and getting rejected already. Uh, the max I think we can see is a gap fill and then it just goes down. Even if we go up, we have the 50 MA at 186, so not a lot of room for Apple to be strong. Like even this would be the maximum we can see, and then go back down. But I think the top may have been already in, and we can see a drop to 162 quite easily in the next couple of weeks. Like not this much. Maybe by end of next week we go to 170, we consolidate here a while, and then we have another leg down in the next week or so, so that it's by the 29th, something like this. Then Nvidia at the 50 MA, we're testing it again. It tried to go below it 2 times and failed. If it goes third time's a charm, like strike one, strike two, strike three. If it goes below the 50 MA this time, I think it's gonna be a major leg down. And we go for the 200 MA, this gap fill here from earnings. This should be a decent one if we go up. If we go up, I don't think it will go up that much. Target is still this 512, 513 area. Only the down move is spectacular, the up move won't be spectacular. Google kind of bullish, or not as much anymore because it's a very ugly rising wedge. But it hasn't done the final up move in my opinion. So I think it still maybe does an overshoot here, and then it should break down, and target is this area here. Something like this. This would be the target. Amazon also binary. We have this consolidation here. If we break out above, oops, target 150. If we go below, target 113. Microsoft consolidating below this line here, this level. And I don't think it breaks it yet. If we go down, target is here at 290. If we break out, retest of the higher 360. Meta is the weakest one because double rejection here, like actually triple rejection. Initially, I thought it would be doing something like this, meaning hugging the middle point here and just going up for a while and then like this. But it's not even doing that. It's getting rejection for the Bollinger Band above and doing this curved kind of thing with wicks above. So I think Meta is weak even if the market is strong. And I would expect it, if the market is strong, I would expect it to just go sideways on this level or maybe on the 20 MA, like do this on the 20 MA. And eventually when it gets here, like in beginning of October, maybe it starts another leg up. But if it's weak, I would expect it to go to the to 100 MA, this trend line here, and if it fails to hold, we go for the gap fill at 212. Netflix, similar to Microsoft, trying to push above this level. If it does, we go to 506. If it doesn't, we retest the trend line at 414. Make some. We have this. We have two scenarios based on the week off. So we have a version in which we don't make a new high, and we have a version in which we do the UTAD. UTAD version is 122, like we go above, get rejected, fake breakout, then we drop spectacularly when we go back below the 120 level. And the other one is we go to 117 and get rejected there. We don't make new high, and the same, we get rejected here. We do this. I don't know which will happen. I hope we get the UTAD version because it's a better short, but I kind of expect oil to turn back down and get rejected soon. Like, this was the prediction. Now I think it retests this 85, maybe bounces up at once, but then when it goes below and loses the horizontal level, it will flush down. Surprisingly, oil and the dollar have been positively correlated, but that cannot hold. And the dollar kind of needs a breather as well. It can go to 105 and then should correct. Let's see, something like this, maybe even more, like back to 103, then back tests, and then something like this. But regardless of this, oil and dollar should not be positively correlated. So even if uh, oil will remember that dollar being strong is not good for it, and even if dollar continues going up longer term, like maybe does this or bounces here and does this, oil will eventually remember that it's bad for it and dump. Okay, now I have a couple of weekly selection item and I'll talk about them in this video to not make a different one. First one, we have ICUI, ICU Medical, which has this nice bullish divergence. Shit. And it's been one of the top names. It's here. And it has 63 on the average 6. But if you've been following this dark pool tracker, you know that ICUI has been the top of the list for like 3 weeks. The only drop is because on Friday it went bearish, but don't know if this will hold. On Thursday it was 90% bullish. So uh, I don't think a single bad print is enough to warrant a scare. And for the past 3 weeks, it's been the top of the list consistently with 70% plus. So I think it's worth a look. And the expectation is that we get a bounce here, something like this. If we don't, the next level is 117, and I think this is a very it's a high quality demand zone. We had this one here, which was tested once, twice, now a third time, and should still get a bounce from it. If not, we go here. This is also high quality demand zone, and I think we get a bounce from it. Then we have GME. GME was the top of the list on Friday, 72, and average, if we go for the average 3, GME was the top of the list, also getting bought up a lot, and it was in the top of the list consistently over the past couple of weeks. And we still have the movie run up I anticipate to happen as we near the movie release and maybe even after. Friday's drop was caused by that SEC news about Ryan Cohen getting investigated because of BBBY. So not really that concerning. And earnings were decent. They had a very small loss. So things are kind of looking up. Maybe we get a retest of this level. It will be on a bullish divergence. And we go up. Movies releases on the 22nd. Uh, and I expect we will see 22 on any run up based on the movie. Then we have CRISPR. CRISPR is also among the top. CRSP average for the past couple of days is 67 and 64 overall. And uh, have this long-term trend line. Tested once, tested again, and getting a bounce from it. I think we may see 57, 60, something like this, if the bounce continues. If we go below the trend line, don't short unless we lose 46. So below 46 is a short, and it goes to 35. CLF looking kind of nice. Uh, may bounce here. Many of these names are at support, like ICUI, GME even, CRISPR as well. So it's quite binary. Uh, with the same setup for the market, it's not a 100% slam dunk kind of a situation. So take this plays with a grain of salt and maybe err on the side of caution instead of going YOLO or something like that. I think they're good plays, but if the market dumps because it dumps, they're not going to be good plays on the bullish side. Most likely you're going to have to take them on the bearish side. So CLF looking good. There were some call flows for 17 on Friday, and if we get a bounce here, I think we go to 17. If we don't, we go to 14. JD is my favorite Chinese name. Uh, I would not take it short at all, even if we go below this level. I'm not sure what's going to happen. No precedent. This is the all-time low or something like that. Not the all-time low. Let's put that one. This seems pretty accurate. So if we get a breakdown, we go to 22. But I would not take it short. I think it's more likely that the move down would be a fake out than and do this. So if we go below the 31.5 level, let it do its thing. If it goes without us, whatever. But if we recapture 31.5, then it's a long. XLF saw a lot of buys on Friday and Thursday. Overall, it's not that good because it has some rough days before that. But the average for the last three is among the top of the list. And because of that, I'm giving it a bullish bias, holding the trend line here, consolidating. But again, binary, maybe we break down, look for the breakout or for the breakdown to take this play. Then we have Lucid, which also had the dark pool buying it. 70% on the average 3 and 66 on the average 6. Problem with it is it has the bad habit of doing fake breakouts. Like for example, I was following this consolidation here, and I thought it was a bullish setup, and eventually played out like that. But it had this fake breakdown before it. What the fuck am I drawing? Before it went up, and I think it's plausible that we will see this as well here. So uh, I think there's a chance it goes to 5.5, maybe even a bit lower before it turns back bullish. Finally, UPS. UPS is going back into this air pocket zone, given that it dropped a lot. It's been dropping since July. I think it's more likely that we get a bounce, either at this level here, or we go to 155 and have this play out like this, maybe go to this. But if the market is weak, we may get that breakdown after all. And when we get this breakdown below 156, all hell will break loose for UPS because air pocket, and it can drop to 120 in a couple of days. There's only one intermediate level here. 5, 6. Okay, that's it for this week. Have a good one. Bye bye.